G'day everybody, how are you going today? It is so very good to see you. This is a news flash. A lot of Nikon news coming out at the moment, which is very exciting for those who are interested in the Nikon Z mount. Whether you're either in it, a Nikon user, or perhaps someone who's thinking of coming from another brand. And today's news is about information that's just dropped on our good friend's site, Nikon Rumors, in regards to, yes, the Z9. Now this is very exciting news. A lot of people are super keen to know whether Nikon is going to come to the party in regards to bringing an R5 or an A9 level, that's Sony A9 II or Canon R5 level camera. And this seems to be where this one is aimed at. Not only is it aimed at being high speed, but fairly high spec as well, just like the R5 is. And some of the highlight specs that they're talking about are indeed things like 8K. Now, of course, if you're going to have 8K, you need a pretty big sensor to go with it. One of the most critical pieces of information is that this rumor is suggesting this camera is still something like a year away. It's going to fall in the Northern Hemisphere autumn or the fall. Now, of course, that means October of next year, which, yeah, that's a long way off. It's 11 months and change off. That's okay. It's something very exciting, and as time passes, we will get more information. What I like about the information we're getting today is that not only is it from a rumor site that has a very good track record, but everything in here is totally believable, and it's possible for Nikon to achieve all of this. And it's the sort of camera that Nikon needs to give us, so I'm feeling good about it, even so it's a year out. The headline feature is perhaps the fact that it would be something like a 46 megapixel sensor. It's not going to be the same sensor that we have in the D850 or the Z7, which are similar but slightly different, because they're talking about this sensor being able to do 8K video and being able to do high frame rates. 8K 30p, that's a pretty big effort. You've got to have a sensor that runs pretty quickly if it can do those sorts of things. So that in itself, that sensor with the capacity to do high speed stills and to do 8K, that in itself is a massive piece of news, and it is a camera that would be of interest to a lot of people, not necessarily because of the 8K, but what 8K says is the sensor has high speed readout and it can do other things like 4K 120, or it can do high speed stills. Another thing that comes out of this for high speed stills is the fact that the EVF will have no blackout when moving at high speed. And that is something that sports photographers and wildlife photographers would love to see. The sort of frame rate that is being rumored, the information is here, it's something in the order of 20 frames per second in stills. In regards to what would the slots be, well, yes, 2 slots, and they would be the Type B variety, not the Type A. At this stage, Type A is actually something like half the speed of Type B. And so if you want to be doing fast video, like 8K video, or you want to be doing super high raw frame rates, you need the highest speed card that you can get. So it would be 2 Type B, which is the same card that we find in the Z6, the Z7, the D850, D5s, D6s, D500s. It'd be 2 of those, which already exists in the D5 and the D6. We would also have gigabit networking, which of course we have Ethernet built into the D4, D5, D6, etc. models that already exist. You just literally have a port like on the back of a computer straight into the camera, which is pretty amazing. The body itself would be the pro level Nikon body that we've come to know and love, just like the D4 here. This is the last big full-blown body that I purchased because I went down the high res road rather than the high frame rate road. But yes, this sort of body, obviously on a Z system, it would be a little bit smaller. I think that's the idea, that we're trying to make things smaller, but I think it would still be big enough. A new battery by the sounds of it, because it is the ENEL18 style battery, which is what we have here. Yes, so this is the ENEL18, and this is said to be the ENEL18 whatever might be next. C, B, D, I'm not sure where we're up to. We might even be up to D already with the D6, I'm not sure. But anyway, it would be this size and this style of battery. So from my experience, the batteries that are, say, in the D850 and the Z7 probably get somewhere in the order of 3 times, something like that. So if this is the same, then we might get somewhere between 1,500 and 2,000 images in a Pro body. But look, that doesn't take into account the very high frame rate this camera could be running at. But of course, these batteries continue to advance. So I'm going to guess it's going to be well over the 400 or 500 frames, which is just the CEPA rating. So I think this battery will give us significantly higher frame rates than we're currently getting on, say, the Z7, which of course is significantly larger, plus we have ongoing increases in battery technology. So this is very exciting stuff. Battery life, like with that thing, it's either something like 5,000, with the D4, D5, D6, something like 5,000 frames, can be even more. And you know, that's usually, unless you're doing really intensive shooting, that's a couple of days of shooting. So I'm guessing that you'd get roughly a day's worth of shooting out of one of these batteries in the future. That's pretty exciting. ISO on this camera would be 64 to 25,000 odd. More than enough from my perspective, especially with a sensor that is that high resolution. And of course, one of the most significant and important advancements that everybody, well, not everybody, want to see is improved AF tracking. Well, that would most definitely be part of it, as this is aimed at sports and wildlife type users. And to finish this thing off, we're probably expecting to see a new user interface, and considering that the Nikon interface is so good already, it's really interesting to consider what it is they might be thinking that they're going to be doing. I'm certainly interested in what that might be. And also, we're expecting a new XPEED processor. This is a processor that would obviously have to handle 20 frames per second in stills and 8K video. Now, considering all the drama that Canon have gone through with their 8K R5, you'd have to think a whole year to almost 18 months later that Nikon, if they do this, they're going to iron out the sort of heat dissipation issues that Canon has been experiencing, and you just simply wouldn't end up in the same place. As I've heard some people talk about in regards to 8K with the Canon, why didn't Canon just put a limit on it, a limit of the recording before it started to overheat? And thus, rather than having people's expectations that it should go on for half an hour, oh, but it overheats, you just say, we can only do 5 minutes at a time, etc., etc. Also, I think by the look of it, this is going to be a pro-sized body, so there's going to be more opportunity for heat dissipation. It's going to be a larger body by the look of it than the R5. And it would be if it's a D6 size body. Which segues me to the kind of explanation of this camera is that it's going to be a D6 style body with R5 level stills capacity and video capacity with A9 II level autofocus and tracking capabilities. So if you were to roll those three cameras together, this is what it's going to look like, and that sounds very exciting to me. So there we have it. This is the new rumoured Z9, which would be out in 11 months and a little bit, something under a year, and it sounds like an absolute cracker of a camera. It's going to cost the same sort of price as a D6, and it could well come in at around the $6,000 to $7,000 mark. So this is a very powerful and very expensive camera, but it certainly may well be also an outstanding camera. Again, to reiterate, this rumour comes from Nikon Rumours, who have a great track record. Again, also the fact that all of these specifications make sense, they're logical, and we've already seen the 8K and the 120 FPS 4K and the 46 megapixels at 20 frames per second. We've seen all this stuff, it exists, so it's completely reasonable that Nikon should be able to match this and perhaps do a better job because they have 12 to 18 months longer to refine and improve. Nikon Z users, very interesting times. Just to reiterate one last time, this is a rumor, but I do believe there's a fair bit of validity and merit in what we're hearing. As always, everybody, I would love to know, what do you think? What do you think of this Z9? Is this something that you would be interested in? What do you think of these specs? Do they ring true to you? And and one other last final point, also rumored alongside of this Z9 is a Z 400mm prime 2.8 lens. Now that sounds pretty spectacular, and that would be the sort of lens that sports and wildlife shooters would love. Obviously you could put this camera into a DX mode, just like the Z7. When it goes into DX, you get 19 megapixels. Well, if you put this into DX mode, you're going to get around 19 or 20 megapixels as well, which would push a 400mm lens out to 600mm. That's quite a powerful lens, and I suspect it would take the 2x teleconverter, which is out already, which would take you from 600 to 1200. Amazing. How exciting. What a powerful lens this would be. And you're going to have this lens and this camera, hopefully, potentially, in less than a year. Tell me your thoughts. All right, everybody. Thank you so much. It's been so good to see you. If this is your first time here, it is so very lovely to meet you. I'd love to see you again, so please subscribe. Please share, please like, and if you'd like to see over 200 episodes.